Now, many people are upset about the continued existence of Guantanamo Bay that illegally detains people, tortures them, and carries out all manner of human rights abuses. Now, a very similar thing has been revealed in a new investigation showing that the U.S. Coast Guard has been illegally detaining people and essentially keeping them without trial for long periods of time. And this has been happening on U.S. Coast Guard cutters in the Pacific Ocean. In an effort to staunch the flow of cocaine and other hard drugs from South America to Central America and points north, Coast Guard cutters have been deployed farther and farther from the shore in the Pacific Ocean. When these cutters capture a boat carrying drugs, the smugglers are brought onto the ships and kept shackled to the deck, sometimes outside in the elements, until the Coast Guard makes arrangements for them to be transported back to the U.S. for trial. Now, how long does this usually take? About 18 days. People can be detained, shackled to the deck, open to the elements, until they get back to the United States. Well, see, the thing is, they're in international waters, and they're not actually under arrest until they get back to the United States. Now, often these weeks can be last weeks or sometimes even months. They can be in this situation, in other words, detained without charge for an insane amount of time. Now, this was revealed by a report in the New York Times. The Coast Guard officials say they can do this because drug smugglers aren't under arrest until they reach U.S. shores. In other words, they don't actually have any rights until they're officially under arrest. In the worst cases, they are drawing criticism even from other Coast Guard officials. Now, Seth Fried-Wessler, who did the report for the story by the New York Times, says that a combination of U.S. agreements with Latin American countries and the U.S. Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act allows the U.S. to take this action. In other words, according to them, it's perfectly legal. Human rights don't exist at sea under international and maritime law, apparently. Now, Wessler spoke to the world's Carol Hills about his reporting about these floating Guantanamos on the Pacific Ocean. And now, obviously, this is a very blatant abuse of human rights. These people are being detained without charge until they can be taken somewhere where they can be charged, which makes you wonder if the U.S. is actually outside of its jurisdiction and going places where it doesn't have any legal powers to make an arrest. I mean, this is the same country that invades other countries, holds people indefinitely, tortures them, and then calls them terrorists, and then proceeds to slaughter that entire country. So can we really be surprised that the United States would act this way in the war on drugs? The war on drugs being one of the most empty, fraudulent wars that have ever been carried out, minus the war on terror. Now, the U.S. is doing this, of course, because it can do it, and nobody can actually really stand up to them. Now, it is very important for the United States to stop the flow of illegal drugs into the country. That way the CIA doesn't have the competition with the drug sales that they actually carry out. And then we could go into a whole part about how if drugs were just simply legalized and rehab programs were put out instead of throwing people in prison, drug rates would go down. But then a lot of the very profitable nature of it, particularly when it comes to pharmaceuticals and dealing with marijuana, would lose a great deal of money. And keep in mind that also the war on drugs is also an excuse that the United States government uses to detain and jail its own people when they happen to be too much of a dissenting opinion or just happen to have the wrong skin color. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.